What up? Shut up and listen. This is another episode where you're gonna watch this studio space transform every episode. So got some good ideas, got some renderings put together, balling on a budget. So if those sponsorships start coming through, you might be able to have a little stake in the studio here. You know, maybe like it's the Ivy Hall podcast studio. That sounds good. We're gonna start off pretty easy. I'm just gonna do a quick segment of Answer the Internet. Oh no, that's not what it's called. It's called Am I the Asshole? And I'm running low on batteries everywhere, so this is just gonna be what it is. Oh, here's a good one. 29 days ago. My family lives in Canada. This is important. My kid was being bullied at school. He is a big kid, and I always had told him to resolve his problems with his words. Wise. I've told him to report bullies to teachers, and if they don't listen, tell the principal. Also, to tell me and his mom so we can follow up. My son's after-school program is Taekwondo. Also important. He's been in Taekwondo since he was in kindergarten. He also plays hockey. Okay, tough kid. There are a group of kids at his school that have been assholes to my kid and his friends. My kid did the right thing and told the teacher monitoring recess. She told him that the kids were new to Canada and they don't know how to fit in yet. Okay. He went to the principal and got pretty much the same thing. So he told his mom. She went to confront the parents, and she likely would have ended up in custody. She's Irish. Like real Irish from Ireland, not Marky Mush Irish. Marky Mark Irish. God, I suck at reading. Good God. I made an appointment to talk to the principal and the teacher along with my son. Great. I went into a meeting with a simple goal, to stop the bullying. The principal and the teachers both tried the same excuse on me, that these kids were newcomers and they weren't fully aware of how Canada was different from their home country and what they saw on American TV. I remember in like third grade, this kid, Nick, and his brother Shane, I believe, came to elementary school, and their bad kid aura was so bold, like nothing I've ever seen before. The teacher was telling him to get off the monkey bars like he's walking on top of them. And this new kid didn't give a rat's ass whether he listened or not. And I remember standing there, we were playing kickball, and I was just like, what is this? What am I witnessing? Now looking back, that may have been the first time I have witnessed defiance. No, but I rode the bus with Zach Jones, and I can say his name comfortably because Zach Jones on my bus taught me everything I needed to know at the ripe young age of, he was 2 years older than me. We sat in the back of the bus. But yeah, the bad kids come to school. I can remember a few. You know what's crazy? New kids. You always think, and maybe this was more relevant back then, but like you just think the new kids like, oh, their dad got a new job. But maybe they were kicked out of another school. I was so innocent thinking, no wonder they were all pretty bad. And I'm not knocking the bad kid. Listen, I was bad. I may have said a few cuss words back in the day, but your boy wasn't a bad kid. Interesting. Yeah, think of it. Think of the new kids you've had at your school. They're probably bad kids. She's like real Irish from Ireland, not Marky Mark Irish. My feet are on concrete floor, and it's freezing. Studios. Loading. I told her I would take care of it, so I'm confused. Who is this girl? I'm assuming this is like stepmom. My kid was being bullied at school. He is a big kid, and I have always told him. So tell me, and this is a boy. This is a dad. Okay, all right. So the kid's getting bullied. Blah blah blah. I think I made an appointment to talk to the principal and teacher along with my son. I asked what was being done to. Okay, I made an appointment to talk to the principal and teacher along with my son. I went into a meeting with a simple goal, to stop bullying. The principals and teachers both tried the same excuse on me, that these kids were newcomers. They weren't fully aware of how Canada was different from their home country and what they saw on TV. Okay, I think I've already read that, but you get it twice. Fast forward if you don't want to hear it again. I asked what was being done to stop it. They said they have talked to the boys. I have asked if the parents have been brought in to talk to. She said no. Okay. So I turned to my kids and I explained that Canada kids under 12 years old cannot be charged with a crime. In fact, they can't be arrested. Worst case scenario, if anything happens, he might have to do some community service. The principal and teachers went crazy, telling me that I can't tell him that. I asked them if I was lying. They both shut up. They both shut up. I pointed to them and told my kid to remember that they didn't say I was wrong. I told him to tell me in a week if he was still being bullied. My understanding is that all the bullies' parents were called in, told to control their children. The bullies were also given library detention instead of recess for a month. I'm satisfied with the result, but the teacher and principal seemed upset. My wife thinks I should have given the information privately. Okay, so we got a little case of American justice versus Canada. How would I handle this situation? I like to think of my responses. This is literally the first time hearing this great little story, so let me ponder for a couple seconds here. All right, I'm back from that little break. How would I handle this situation? Okay, what is my what is my perception on bullies? Because I kind of think I have a unique perception on bullies. And my oldest is 19, and I've told him this through school. I've told other parents this. I've even told some teachers this. My perspective on bullies is they're not. I don't want to say that. I was going to say they're not going to change, but they can. They can. They can absolutely change. That's going to come with age and wisdom if they get it. Now, whether or not they outlive that time or wisdom, that's up for debate. So, yeah, I think as long as they put the time in and keep gathering wisdom at the same time, in sync with each other, eventually they will plateau and not be a bully anymore. But for the sanctity of protecting my children, I just say, listen, like, bullies are never going to change. Bullies are bullies. The only thing we should be putting effort into is the kids that are worth a shit. I think a lot of attention is put on the bully, and what a bully wants is attention. That is what he wants. Whether he's not getting it at home, whether he has something inside of him that is hurting. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't help these kids more. Absolutely. I'm not saying that. Like, if I have the opportunity to mentor or help someone younger than me, I'm all for it. I'm all for helping. I've seen it several times when I used to coach Little League Baseball. Just several kids that really turned out to be great adults in first practice. I was like, you need to be in juvenile detention center. I'm looking at you, Ronnie Burton. But yeah, I know people change, and Ronnie Burton was not a bully. He was just a crazy child. But I'm not saying we can't heal the bully, but like, at what time do we take our focus off the bully and like help build these kids encouragement or help build these kids defense mechanisms, right? Like, like, how does that make you feel? Like, if you're getting bullied, like you're sad, you're just like, what do you do? Just talk to them about the bully? That's not going to help. If I'm scared about my taxes, which I am, sitting down and talking about my taxes going to suck. But someone's like, why does that make you worry? Why does this do it? So, no, not to get too deep and kind of back to the story. I just try to focus more attention on the kid that's getting bullied and try to explain to him why he feels a certain way. My son came home a couple weeks ago, and we have this little mini Jeep, and he loves it when I pick him up off the school bus. We got a long lane out in the country, and I'd ride his little mini Jeep down and pick him up. And he's usually pretty giddy. Like, he jumps off the bus and just, you know your kids when you see his face. But this wasn't so much I'm sad just because of school. I just had a rough day. Sometimes he plays sad to get the attention, and that's fine. But this was like, my heart stopped, and I was like, oh no. I was like, this is a serious face. I have like this thing for reading faces. That's a whole nother podcast, but yes, I can see someone, and it's almost like I can feel what they're feeling, like a extreme empathy that I feel. Anyways, so he's walking to the mini Jeep, and I'm just like, code red. And he sits down, and he won't look me in the eye. Oh, I'm going to cry saying this. And he like put his head down, and I was like, buddy, what's up? And like, we're in this little Jeep, right? There's a school bus in front of us that's like huge, and we're just in this little Jeep. And I put my arm around him. I'm like, dude, what's up? And he's like, it was Valentine's Day. It was their party or their... Anyways, you remember like candygrams in high school where you could send like candygrams or flower grams, whatever. I look over, and my sweet 10-year-old boy's lip is quivering. He can't talk. He's so it's like that real emotional, not the whiny 10-year-old, not the boo-hoo 10-year-old, but it was like a genuine human to human, like, oh no, this person hurts. And he's like, Dad, I didn't get any flowers. And my heart shattered. I felt so bad. And I just like put my arm around. I was like, buddy, I was like, I understand completely. Like, yes, like, I hate that for you. I was like, that's a bad deal for you. And kind of got to talking to him about it. And he's got a little girlfriend. I said, hey, what did your girlfriend get you anything? He's like, no, she told me the night before that she didn't have money for one, and she couldn't get me one. I was like, dude, she communicated to you before she hurt you. Like, that's great. Like, that is awesome. And I said, and he even said, well, even the teacher got some kids ones. And I'm like, what? Come on. So it's kind of like this weird old me with the hard head mentality that I raised my first kid with. You know, I emulated a lot of things dad did, which were awesome. Like, I had an awesome childhood and I was raised by a great man, but it was just like such a different time. So I knew in that moment, I'm like, I am there for his feelings, bro. Because the equivalent of him not getting a flower, which to me as a 37-year-old man should seem silly, or to adults may seem silly, in that moment of his life at 10 years old, this is probably the worst thing that's happened to him emotionally. And I understand that. You know, so be like, oh, fucking cares, you know? You're a young kid, you gotta laugh loud. Who cares? And laugh, you know, like, no, dude, that broke his heart. You can't fake the lip quivering, you know? When you see tears, when you hear someone crying, there is like an emotional exchange that goes on that our body says that's real. We won't go to Erica Kirk because that's, anyways. But those emotions you cannot hide, and when you experience another human doing them, you know it's genuine. Like, you can't fake that. So, anyways, that pain he felt that day, being a 10-year-old, not getting a flower, was a huge deal. And I just let him know. I said, dude, listen. I said, it sucks. I was like, I know that feeling. I'm so sorry. Like, and I shared stories to where I didn't get something someday. And I shared a story. I was like, I remember feeling that, and that really hurt. And then, like, halfway up the lane, like, it's probably a good half mile, like, we're coming around, we're talking, we sat there for a while, and then we're driving. I said, you know what I would have done? I would have jumped on my desk and said, I don't want your flowers. And I can confidently do that to my son because I feel like he is a very mature child. And I don't go around pretending that not saying fuck around my children is the best thing you could possibly do for them. If my kids, the worst thing they do is say fuck or flip someone off in this day and age, I have done my job as a father. Yes, my son may say fuck and my kids may say cuss words, but they are going to be extremely emotional mature when they get older. And the difference between that and making this stigma about like all these bad words, and yes, we don't need to cuss people out, but listen, if you use fuck in the right context around me, I'll let it slide. But if you direct it at someone, oh my God, will hell have no fury. And does that make me hypocritical? Tell my kids they can cuss? Yeah, because it's like learning what words to use when, where. Everything has to be a mask. We all have to play this game. So it's like, yeah, open it up to them. Anyways, the fuck am I going with that? So yeah, so I was like, just tell them I don't want your. I didn't say fuck. I said, maybe I did. Who fucking knows? Well, probably. You just say like, I don't want your flowers anyways. But it was good. It was good for him to open up. And so again, that has nothing to do with bullying. That just comes with emotions and kids, and no one validates children. No one. They're just kids, right? We don't need it. No, it's the first time living for them. They're only 10 years old. Like, they're only 4. When they freak out, it's a feeling they have inside of them that they don't know how to control. So what is it? Screaming, crying, being mad, telling them they hate you. They don't know what that feeling is inside of them. Anxiety. First time I remember feeling strong. I'm just going to talk. This has nothing to do. We'll go back to this. We'll go back to the bully. The first time I ever felt anxiety, I was at boot camp. Oh no, tech school after boot camp. And I remember laying in bed and not being able to sleep. And I'm just like, what the hell? And I was like a month before going home. So I just couldn't sleep. Like, to the point I went to my shirt's office, the first sergeant, Sergeant Gaskill. I was like, Sergeant Gaskill. I was like, I can't sleep. I don't know what's going on. Like, I've never experienced. I've always just, nothing's mattered in my life. I had no reason to have anxiety. I mean, I've been scared. You know, I'll just start telling Jeff stories if I have to. I mean, I've been scared before, absolutely. But to have anxiety where I couldn't sleep was a first for me. And, you know, I kind of explained to her. She was, oh, it sounds like anxiety. I'm like, what's that? What's anxiety? Like, legit, I have no idea what this means. She's like, oh, it's just like you're anxious, you're excited for something, and you can't sleep. And this was so close to going home, and that's all I could smell. All I could smell was, you know, I was out in Maryland, and all I could smell was the farm air and bonfires and friends and cold natural lights, and I just wanted to be home more than living itself. And so that's kind of the first time I learned about anxiety. Now think about it being 10 years old. 10 years old. My son tried playing football in the summer, and I said, you ain't gonna like it. Like, you're not a football kid. You ain't gonna, yeah. I want to do it. So he tried it. It was so hot, and he hated it, and he kept crying. And I said, oh, if you start something, by God, you're going to finish it. And it wasn't quite as much that anymore, but I was like, no, you made an obligation to your team. So I kept making him go to practice. Like, his mom would drop him off, and he'd call me, like, freaking out, not wanting to go. I'm like, bro, you have to. Like, you have to. So I picked him up from, everything happens at the bus stop. So I picked him up from the bus, and one day, it was a practice day. This was about, whenever he gets dropped off till, in a couple hours, and he's sobbing. He's like, I hate it so much, Dad. I hate it so much, Dad. Like, I hate it. And like, usually he doesn't. He won't show fear that much or show raw emotion to me as much. It doesn't seem like, because he knows my answer is usually going to be a little bit harder, or at least in the past it always has been. But this time he was just, I knew for him to say that to me, to like truly open up like that, I was like, okay. So I don't know how it went down. I called his mom. I was like, just like, listen, I'm all about like, don't finish what you start. But I was like, he's miserable. If he's thinking about this on the bus on the way home and already this emotional about it, like, for me not to validate that feeling of his, what a dick I would be. So that was the time I talked to his mom. We got back inside and I came up with a plan. I was like, listen, dude, like, I'm going to let you quit football. I said, I explained it all. I know how you feel. I know how bad you are right now. Like, I want to help, but listen, these are your chores every day that practice time is. So instead of going to practice, you will be working. Yeah. So I told him, like, you're doing this every day. Like, this is the only way I'm going to let you quit this. And he was totally fine. He worked his ass off every day because I knew the pain he was receiving from football, or the anxiety and the stress, was greater than his hatred for doing chores. So that was like my gauge. I'm like, okay, if he's willing to do something he hates and agree to it this easy, this has to be far greater than, the feeling he gets when he has to do chores. But either way, I think it's just like validating kids' feelings. Like, they're little humans. They don't know what they're doing. They're young. Like, of course they're freaking the fuck out. Of course they're being bad. It's kind of our job to educate the children versus using this guideline that everyone uses or has used for years. Not to say anyone did anything wrong in the past. This is evolution of people. Like, this is how generations work. So it's just like, yeah, I'm grateful for everything that I've ever had in my past, every hard lesson I've learned. I'm grateful for everything. But it's also, now it's cool to take that foundation and move it onto this generation, which I believe the generations behind us will be the best generation. I have so many opinions on that. It's for a different episode. But today, that's it. Shut up and listen. This was awesome. It was sponsored by fucking no one. And listen to how awesome it is. But no, I hope this wasn't podcast-ish. I hope this wasn't too much. I just hope this was something easy to listen to take your mind off whatever bullshit you're going through. But I just like to share kind of where I'm at in life and my thoughts. So awesome. Shut up and listen. Have a good night. Have a good day. Whatever. Love you.